What's up everybody, Ryan Dieger here, and what you just witnessed was a very amateur performance of myself using Mad Zach sound packs. If you were paying close attention, you would have noticed one thing in particular, that as I was hitting the pads, the volume level was changing in the remix sets. So what we're going to do today is look at how you can use a velocity sensitive controller such as Machine to give you more dynamic control over your remix sets and Traktor's effects as well. Let's take a look. Okay, so first we're going to look at velocity sensitivity and the remix decks. So I've got a Mad Zach sound pack loaded up here, and right now the remix decks aren't in velocity mode. So all the sounds are just playing at full volume. But once I hit this button that I've mapped here to put it into velocity mode, we now get velocity sensitive pads. So basically how it works is the softer you hit the pad, the quieter the sound's going to be. And the harder you hit the pad, the louder it's going to be. Instead of just having a static snare sound or drum sound, now you can have, changes in volume, and it, makes it a little bit more playable. Okay, so how does this actually look in the controller mapping window? Well, as you can see, I've got a bunch of slot volume adjust commands that are mapped to the 16 pads for Deck C and Deck D. And basically, because the controller is velocity sensitive, every time you hit the pads, it's sending a different MIDI value. So by assigning that to a volume knob, it's always going to give you a slightly different MIDI value. So that's where you get that switch in volume level. And basically how it works is once a cell's in one-shot mode and this modifier button's been pressed, then it's going to detect that velocity input. Alright, so the next thing we're going to look at is how you can use velocity sensitive pads to control Traktor's effects. Now this works really similarly to the way it worked with the remix decks. So the harder or softer you hit the pad, the higher or lower value you're going to get for an effect. But Machine's also capable of detecting pressure. So if I press on a button lightly and hold, it's going to keep that effect going. But if I press hard, it's going to increase the value of that effect. So again, this gives you a lot of really dynamic control with one single button. So let's take a look at how this is all mapped. So the real magic behind this mapping comes from the Native Instruments controller editor. As you can see, I've got Machine loaded up here, and I've got a pad selected. Once you've got a pad selected, what you want to do is go to this Press tab and set the type to Control Change. And what this is going to do is that as you press and hit a pad, it's going to constantly send a new control signal. So that's what's causing that effect knob to constantly move up and down as I press harder or softer on the knob. Alright, so once you've set that up in the controller editor, you can go back to Traktor's controller manager and go to your mapping. And what you want to do is you want to create a knob, and then you want to go back to the controller editor, and you want to assign that knob to this value that's in the pressure tab. So we'll go to 15, PC, and 111. The trouble is if you use the learn function here, sometimes it'll map it to this hit value, and we want the pressure value here. That's the most important thing that you need to map in the controller manager. Now that I've shown you a bit of the science behind the mapping, let's get to the fun part and see how it all works together. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video demonstration on how to use velocity sensitive pads with Traktor's remix decks volumes and with Traktor's effects to give you some more dynamic control with your DJ sets. So if you like what you saw here and you want to give this a try yourself, we'll have the links below for the Machine Mark II mapping, the effects settings that you'll need to load, and the controller editor template available on Maps on DJ Tech Tools. And in the future we'll get into an in-depth tutorial on how you can actually map this yourself if you want to integrate this into your own machine mapping instead of just using the mapping that we've provided. So once again, hope you enjoyed. Take care.